I want to shift here quickly to demographic. And there's a lot of younger people here, but also some older folks here. We're watching essentially a really, really promising shift going on in our demographics here. And the quick way to understand it is, this is kind of a way to understand the population in America right now is we've got the baby boomers, this huge baby boom, which is now over 50, in their 50s and 60s. And they're going up the chain here. And essentially, this is our age pyramid, by the way. But behind them is this millennial generation. Think of them as people 17 to 35 right now. They are bigger than the baby boom, and the baby boom is only going to get smaller. In fact, it's getting smaller by the day. And I say this because if you think about that, think about the millennials. And this is just some famous millennials. You start thinking, okay, what are those people going to be like driving the next bunch of years? And so if you think, what is this millennial generation? Well, the millennial, quickly, super tech savvy, we know that. Very collaborative, very civic-minded. Not only do they like politics, but they're also very high volunteerism, racially diverse more than any other thing, global, and super green. Totally take climate change for granted, right? If you go back to the boomers, of which I'm a tail-end boomer, I will say, they were a very different crew. And without getting too into it, they're media savvy, much more individualistic rather than collaborative, indulgent, I'd say, a little idealistic, too principled, because essentially we've got now a situation where the conservatives and the liberals of that generation are essentially paralyzed our government because they can't agree on anything, and they won't give up, either side. So essentially there's some things about the boomers that have been bad for this country. Now, if you think about how generations work, this is it. When the big generation like the baby boom was in childhood, they changed the way childhood, went. When they came of age in college, they became rock music and Vietnam, the whole thing. When they grew up with families, they essentially changed McMansions and, all the kind of stuff that went with that stuff. And now with aging, they're going to totally rechange how retirement goes. But the reason this is important here is think about the millennials' life stage. We watched them go through childhood, which they reinvented at some level. We're now just watching how they are changing how it is to work. They're revitalizing urban centers. They're living in houses of a dozen, 15, 20 people. They want to be together. They don't want to live in the suburbs, with some kind of, McMansion out there. Like, they're midlife. They're not going to raise families out there in the exurbs and stuff. They're going to totally change how that goes. And essentially, they're going to live so long with life, enhancing biotech and genetics. They'll probably have another 20 years of vital life beyond what the boomers would. And so if you look across the century, they are going to drive everything in this century. This is going to be the millennial century. And so think of those people applying to all these big changes. Now, in politics too. The second thing about it is they are the most racially diverse. 40% of millennials are from a different race. And so here, look out to 2050. We've got a third of Americans are going to be Hispanic, right? So we've watched essentially the integration of the Hispanics in the way we kind of integrated the Irish Catholic Jews in the 20th century, right? We've also got this other thing going on here which people have to be aware of, is we've watched the percentage of whites, this is the percentage of the American population for the last 50 years, the minorities going up, white percentage coming down, and this is the American population in 2050 will be essentially, whites will be a minority. That's California right now. That's why we're living the future, and that's why it's going to affect, what we're doing here is going to affect America in the next 50 years.